I run a company and signed a 12-month contract in January 2021 for web development and hosting with a company. In April this year, I decided to move to another company, and I contacted them and said I'd like to give them a month's notice to leave them. They then told me that there was a clause in the contract that it automatically renewed for a further 12 months. I couldn't see it in the contract that I signed at all. And they then pointed me, there's a link at the bottom of the contract, and to click on that link, it then takes you through to more terms, and it's within there that it mentions that it auto-renews. They didn't contact me at all prior to the 12 months. In fact, they didn't contact me during the contract, really, at all, or before the end of the contract to notify me that the contract was going to renew.
Yep.
Am I liable for the further term of the contract? I said I was going to pay up until May this year, and I haven't paid them since then, but they're still invoicing me every month. Am I liable for that, or do I have a case to not pay for it?
Okay, so just help me understand this. So there was a formal set of terms and conditions.
Correct.
And within that terms and conditions, there was a link to yet further terms and conditions.
Correct.
What did the main terms and conditions, the one that you did look at, say about renewal or auto-renewal?
There was nothing in there at all about renewal.
So what did you think was going to happen on the 31st of December when your first year ran out?
That it was actually going to be the end of January, but I thought it would I just thought it would just carry on month to month. In fact, in all honesty, I actually forgot it was a 12-month contract. I just carried on with it.
Which is fair enough. We all do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the starting position is that if there's a link with links to further terms and conditions, that's probably going to be unlawful under the Consumer Rights Act. For this purpose, Andy, even though you're running a business, you're a consumer because you're dealing as a consumer, as a client of the web company. And the Consumer Rights Act says that onerous terms have to be brought to the clear attention of anybody who is signing up to any sort of contract. And putting it buried into a link and not in the main terms and conditions is not drawing it sufficiently to your attention. However, the position then becomes, even if it's unlawful for them to say there's an automatic 12-month extension, the reality is that there's got to be some sort of extension. And you think it should be a month, but very often in the industry, particularly this industry, and it's an industry I'm quite familiar with, it is a year. It's an annual renewal, much like insurance. If you renew, you renew for a year. And certainly with domain names and with hosting, you tend to have year-long contracts. So although you have grounds to challenge this, Andy, I think on balance, the chances are you wouldn't succeed in the small claims court. How much money are we talking about, by the way?
We're talking about, in total, about £1,000.
Okay.
Just over £1,000.
Just over £1,000. So £100 a month.
It's about it's about £130 a month, something like that.
That's very cheap for website development and hosting.
Well, it's like a it was like a prepackaged, almost off the shelf template. Yep. That was hosted by them.
I understand. So I think you've got a decent argument, but it's not an overwhelming argument. But what I would do, Andy, is I would take this up and sue, and because I don't think they'll want that term tested in court. I think they will be.
Do you think I should sue them or wait for them to try and sue me?
Oh, they haven't. I assume they've taken the money from you.
No, they haven't. I had a direct debit that I cancelled in.
I understand. Right, direct debit. I understand. I assumed it was a credit card payment or a debit card payment.
No. It was direct debit. I cancelled it. They're still invoicing.
So hang on. So they were taking money monthly.
Yeah, correct.
Right. Well, that puts you in a stronger position, much stronger position, because once we've established that the terms within the link aren't themselves binding, as I said, it becomes, given it's got to renew, should it be monthly renewal or annual renewal? And if they're taking the money monthly, and that's what they've chosen to do, that's really strong evidence that it's a monthly renewal, because that's just how you're paying for it.
Even though the clause says that the contract would be monthly, payable monthly, but it's valid for another year, if that makes sense.
But that's the clause buried within the clause, which I don't think is going to be enforceable. Correct. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be enforceable. So
they also have to have contacted me in order to notify me the contract was going to renew.
No, they have absolutely no obligation to tell you it's going to be renewed. Right. None at all.
Fine. Okay.
None at all.
Right, okay.
That's caveat emptor. That's let the buyer beware.
Right. Okay.
So that in certain industries like insurance, I mentioned insurance before, the industry regulator recommends and says it's good practice to contact and say it's going to be renewed. But there's no such industry regulator with websites.
So the issue is that it's a clause within a clause.
Exactly.
A link within a clause.
Exactly. And I don't think that's bringing it sufficiently to your attention. So I hadn't realised you hadn't paid it yet. Stop paying. Let them sue you with one big caveat. Has the hosting been transferred elsewhere, Andy? Because you don't want them shutting your website down.
Yes, correct. It has. Yeah,
Good.
I have no contact with them at all.
So they have no power to destroy your website?
No,
okay.
Correct.
Yeah, stop paying, let them sue you, argue the point, and I think they'll back down because they won't want that tested in court.